ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. An Indian author in Kannada language known for his short stories and personal essays. Vasudhendra is an engineer from NIT who went on to do his masters in Indian Institute of Science. He has been a software professional for over 2 decades until he decided to take a sharp turn to fully move into the literary field. Vasudhendra is right here with us today in person to have this chat with us, share his journey, tell his story, spill his secrets of, what brought him till this stage. Thank you, Vasudhendra. We welcome you. We welcome all of you who have taken your time out and come here on a Friday evening. You should give yourselves a huge round of applause for doing this on a Friday evening. And this is the kind of love we want to see for books and reading and writing, right, Vasudhendra? Okay. So, and we are also live on Book Brahma social channels. So, ellarigu swagata. Welcome everyone who's watching us online. Let's jump straight in, Vasudhendra. How does it feel to be a bestseller author? A small town boy and Karnataka state, Kannada speaking, software engineer, and today you are one of the best-selling authors in the country. So please tell us how it feels to be here.
Good evening, everyone. Namaskara ellargu. Frankly, I don't believe in best-selling author or any of those things. For me, readers are important. So when I'm writing some story, I would expect more readers for me. That's very important for me. If there are no readers, maybe I'll stop writing. Yeah, so that's the time I may have to stop writing, isn't it? So, as we said, like in traditional Indian folklore, they always say God has given one mouth but 2 ears. Means if one storyteller is there, 2 listener has to be there. Okay, so listening is very, very important actually. So till people are listening, now it's readers, that's all, it's been changed to readers. Till readers are reading, you get a comfort that you are walking in the proper tread. Okay, so that gives me a very nice feeling. Yeah, that gives me a very nice feeling. I know there are writers who write equally well, so like me, so they write equally well. For some reasons, reader choices will be different. They choose some, they may not choose the others. But still, writing is writing. Readers are very important for me. From the beginning, I have said I need more readers. I'm happy that it's going to English word as well now. So I hope more and more English readers will like this work actually. So, and I'll get better readership. Yeah, I'm very looking forward for that. I'm very happy.
We are all a little curious to know your journey. You were getting a very fat paycheck and over 2 decades of service in the IT industry, a software engineer. You built your own website and you have been maintaining it also pretty well. So, and then, you are writing books and reading books. I was just having this chat with Vasudhendra before this, and he was telling me that 3 years, more than 3 years of research has gone into writing this book. So tell us about that journey.
So you'd like to know more on the this book journey, or okay? Frankly, it started with my previous book. I wrote Mohanaswamy. Mohanaswamy, as many of you know, it's about a story about a homosexual, Indian homosexual. It was kind of autobiographical for me. After I wrote that book, almost everywhere people started inviting me as a LGBT person. Like I was branded. It got translated to English also. And English readers know only that book, no other book, right? So they started almost like bracketing me inside as a LGBT person. So they don't even invite me for literature discussion. So they call me only for the LGBT rights discussion and all. I'm proud of that. So I'm very proud of talking about those subjects as well. But I'm much bigger than that. So I thought, what do I do now? So I wanted to come out of that image. I said, if I can write a story where I am not there, my presence is not there, that will change the perspective, right? So then I said, when I am not there, so because the contemporary, if I write, I'm always there. So with the contemporary views, contemporary issues, I'll come into presence. So let me go 500 years back. So 500 years ago, if I go back and look at the Vijayanagara history, I might get a good story, because there's stories based on the history were pretty getting popular, and readers were enjoying the historical fiction. But there was a fear for me. I'm a software engineer, and I was very poor in history in the school days, and of course college days. We have never read history, and no other knowledge of the history. I was very poor in history, I should say. Then I said, whether I can write really, or so let me try. So nothing wrong in trying, right? So then I started reading all the connected books. So there were a lot, like, so started with Kannada books, and then I went to English books. And while reading, it was fascinating that I started liking the Portuguese part. Like their visit to India, Vasco da Gama especially, the troubles they have taken to come to India. That time, you believe it or not, we call it as globalization now, but the real globalization was in the 15th century only. So every corner of the world, people were working in India. Whether you call it from Persia, Arab, or China, or from Africa, South Africa, or the Europe, everyone wants to work in India. That was the period, actually. So I was very fascinated looking at their journey. So then I said, during that time, actually, Manu Pillai wrote a historical book called Ivory Throne. So that was more on the Travancore and all the Keralan side. So there's a lot of details about the Portuguese and their spice trade and Vasco da Gama visit and his crimes. Actually, he's a criminal almost, like so that kind of a person he is. Though he is a courageous man, he did a great thing and he is in the history. But still, what all the crimes he has done is very unforgivable. That kind of a crimes he has done. So then I thought, okay, let me get into the social life. So writing this is different, but writing social life is very different, because I am not going to write about kings and queens or the ministers. No, not of that. So my story is going to be about common man only. I am not going to touch about these kings and queens and also. I was very clear about that. So I said, let me understand that social history. I never gone to Lisbon. I never gone to Portuguese. Though I have worked in UK. For UK and Denmark, I worked for many years there. So, but I felt, no, I should study that. I started studying there. And it's very nice, actually. The Portuguese history is so well documented. I found it's very easy to write the Portuguese part of the story compared to Vijayanagara part of the story. Though it is, I stay hardly, my native place is hardly 10 to 12 kilometers from Hampi. So it's not far. So we have seen Hampi from so many years, like from childhood onwards, we are seeing whether it's an education tour, it's Hampi, or if someone dies in the family or remote family, so you have to go for a 13-day ceremony in Hampi only. So that much we are attached to Hampi. So I had naturally had an inclination towards the Vijayanagara history. So those are all the things that happened. It became so much that I started reading, and I did not know when to stop. This is a challenge, actually. So when you are preparing, you keep on reading and you get into so depth that you don't know when to stop reading the books. Then I went to a senior critic in Canada and I told me, I don't know when to stop this. He said, no, you are a fiction writer. You are not a historian. So if you have read for 3 years, it's more than enough, actually. So I had got involved so much in the history that I was looking everything from that perspective only, that period perspective only. Like, if you are constructing a house, wherever you go, you see only the house, right? Houses, right? Or the interior decorations, everything you start seeing it, right? For me, it was Vijayanagara. Wherever I go, I see Vijayanagara. oh, Vijayanagara have done this construction, so it is from them, it is from them. So that kind of, in fact, I went to Raichur, my friend has purchased a 30-40 site, and he was very proud. He has paid so many lakhs and he has purchased that site, and he told me, I paid some 3 lakhs or so, and I purchased this 30-40 site. I said, see, once upon a time this was Krishna Deva Raya's property and now you have got it. And he got so angry, you stop reading Vijayanagara period is what he told me. So that kind of a, involvement was there. That helped actually. So when I started writing the book, I didn't struggle at all. It was very smooth flow. Okay, so every day 2000 words. I had made a decision, like every day 2000 words I'm going to write. I kept on writing 2000 words, never stopped. So that helped me, so much of steady help, but only fear I had is, will I make it as make a document? If I read so much, this novel gets turned into a document. I was very careful about it, between documentation and storytelling. So that difference I was very clear. Luckily it didn't. It didn't happen like that. Maybe readers should tell. So it became a story. I'm so happy actually. So now so much of demand. People are asking me to write the second part of it or a series of it and all. Maybe I'll write one more historical novel, but may not be the second part of this.
That's fantastic, Vasudhendra. It's quite overwhelming to know what you must have gone through in this entire process. For those of you who don't know, the book that we are talking about is called Tejo Tungabhadra. Tejo is a Portuguese river, and Tungabhadra is, of course, we all know, it's an Indian river. And now, you know that this is the 12th edition of the book. He wrote it in Kannada, then now it is also available in English. So we actually urge you all to go and read about this. It's quite rich in its content and it's beautifully, beautifully written. And it has won the Karnataka Sahitya Academy Award in 2019. It is like, you know, Vasudhendra said, set around the Vijayanagara era, but we don't get to read or we don't get to, you know about the kings and queens and royalties and their battles and their wars. It's about common people, common lifestyle, and everything that happened around that era in the community. The book is all about that. We're going to speak more on that, but before that I need to ask you, Vasudhendra, how was the editing process? Now you told us you were writing and never stopped. And who did the chopping for you? And how were you feeling when the chopping was happening?
So in Kannada, I am the publisher. So see, I have a publishing house called Chanda Pustaka from past 20 years. I am running a publishing house and it's well received. Okay, so all our books are well sold in the market. So I am the editor. Every book I publish in from Chanda Pustaka, I am the editor. So while writing itself, I was editing my book itself. So there was no question of anyone editing that further. So I just wrote it in one go, I think. In the second round, hardly I would have changed some 8 to 10 lines. The entire work is of the first round only, so I haven't changed anything after I wrote. So, but people scared me saying that in Kannada nobody will buy such big book because it's a 460 pages novel. English also it's come to 460 only. They said no, people won't buy this expensive book. But now the things are different. So they're asking you should have extended the story. You finished it very fast. So you should have wrote another 100 pages more. Then it would have been justice to the book. So that's the feedback I'm receiving actually.
That's very smart, I must say.
But English editing was there. In English, they went for the editing. They asked me to change some of the things depending upon the English readership and their kind of words used and all. But luckily, I had a very good translator. Maitreyi Karnur is excellent in her English. So she did a good job, brilliant job. But still, editing, they do the thorough editing in Penguin. So that happened, but I'm not so good at English, so my English is very weak. So I said it's not my field, so why should I have to get into it? Only if they are damaging the story, I'll chip in. Okay, if any changes they ask, I'll do the changes in Kannada and give it to them. Okay, and she will translate it and add it to that. That's the process which I use. I read once or twice, that's all. Reading my own book is a painful thing actually. So I can't, even for the editing, like how you just get bored. Like at the same time I can read some other book. That feeling comes, you know, so you don't feel like reading your own books multiple times. But English, they went through the editing process.
I must say at this point, Maitreyi was the translator from Kannada to English. She was supposed to be here with us today talking to all of us, but she could not make it. And so, yeah, I was saying, Vasudhendra, very smart, and there's like a hidden tip in what you said. If you want to write a book, open a publishing house for yourself first.
Because I've opened the publishing house, some lucky things happened, you know, like I could publish Mohanaswamy. If in Kannada, if I had approached any publisher with such kind of explicit details about the gay life, I'm sure no one would have come forward to publish that book. Because I was the publisher, it was much easier for me to go with that book, you know. So in English, it's already mature readership was there, so they were happy to publish. In Kannada, you should see, like, after the book has come, none of the newspapers even wrote a single line about that book because they were scared. They were scared. So, but luckily social media was there. Social media presence was there. Everyone opened up in social media. So after it came in English, then they realized that it's an important book. Then all the media started coming to me. Okay. But because my publication, there are some advantages as well.
That's fantastic. Now let's, talk about the extremely complex love angles that you have portrayed in this story. You know, there's a mix of characters from across borders, race, religions, caste, and even relationships. It's quite complex. If you go and read, you'll know what I'm talking about. What do we bring out from these complexities? What are you trying to say?
See, according to me, this earth is created borderless. God never had an idea of creating an atlas. Only we human beings created the atlas and made the border, saying that you cannot go to Pakistan, you cannot go to this China. So that kind of things which we have done. So visa, all that. But there is nothing of that sort when it is created. So now, even if you make the border, what can cross this border is love. Okay, both India and Pakistan can fight a lot, but a boy in Pakistan likes a girl in India, they will be ready to cross any borders, you know. So the power of love is that. So when there is so much of travel is happening across the globe during that period, and so many people are coming to India and Indians are going world over, then I thought the love has to be there. Someone coming from there and falling in love here, or person going from here there and falling in love, all these complexities would have happened. Because during that time, once you travel to India means, it's not the next day I fly back to the country. You will stay here for 5 years, 10 years, like that. And whether you go back or not is also a questionable thing. Okay, that kind of a difficult transportations during the only transporting vehicle was ship. Ship was the fastest. If there is no ship means you have to take horse. Horse is but ship is considered as you have to remember that ship is considered as just like jet flights what we have today. It was like that during that period. They were very proud of their ships. Entire Europe was very, very proud of the ships. So they used to take it as like a credit, like we have developed ships kind of a thing. So always you see so much of writing about ships are there. So that was the modern equipment for them. Okay, so they used to travel using the ships, and of course ships without any power. They never invented the power yet during the 14th century. There was no power. So only using the wind. So they were traveling something like total distance covered by Vasco da Gama is 24,000 miles in his trip. Imagine traveling 24,000 miles without power, only depending on the wind power. You see the kind of engineering, or engineering the courage. So they have taken the challenges they have taken is mind blowing actually. So they had done. So I thought love has to be there. Wherever the people are moving around, they're traveling to another country, means the cross country love is going to come. So I came up with the story.
So yes, that's the essence of the book. It's the love, the power of love. Vasudhendra, there are a lot of young people sitting here and a lot of people watching also us live on the social platforms of Book Brahma. And you should all just go read this book to understand what true love means. I think Vasudhendra has done full justice to explain the fact to all of us. Okay, so coming back to the era. You know, there are rivers and there are fishes in the mix, and, you know, there's quite a bit of information about fishes, right? And there are traders, there are merchants, there's a little bit of kings and royalty and the kind of belief system that they had back then. I really want to know, how did you connect all of them so beautifully?
Because I'm a story writer, so I'll know how to connect the dots, isn't it? So fine. See, when you are seeing, when I'm reading the history, the way I read is very different. Some small point starts haunting me. For example, the seed of this book came when I was reading the Sati system. Sati Sahagamana, what we call, right? Sati in English, they call it SATT as Sati, I think. So in the Sati, they will jump into the fire after the husband has died. So they will jump into the fire. And the narrations of all the travelers who have written about the Vijayanagara period is, they say they go happily. They go with smiling face and they jump into the fire. I thought, what kind of brainwashing would have gone to the woman? It's so sad. If woman is going and jumping smilingly, means happily into the fire, means the system is bad at that time, definitely. The treatment of the woman should have been extremely bad, and we are brainwashed. It's like convincing someone to become a self-immolation, suicide bomber. It's same as that. Suicidal bombers go happily and burn themselves, right? So that's not good. It's the same thing what we are doing it here. So I felt, if I'm going to write a novel, this lady is going to run away from it. She should not jump into the Sati. So then she is the real feminist for me. That's where it started, because during that time I think Padmavat came actually. So this Padmavat film, I was very disturbed with the mindset of the film actually. So they are celebrating the Sati in that film. They are portraying the Sati as if it's something glorious act of Indians. No, I won't believe in it. It's a bad act, actually. We should feel shy about it. We had such bad systems in this thing. So I said, no, this is not the way to showcase Sati. So I need to have a rebel who will oppose Sati and then take over the story. So that's where the seed started for me. From there it started developing, where so many other things went. So such kind of things I'll have. So there is a travelogue by Domingo Pace. Domingo Pace visits during the Krishnadevaraya period. He is from Portuguese, okay? So from the Lisbon. So he's from Lisbon. So he keeps on writing various things he has observed and all. And during one place, I think Dharwad, when he visits Dharwad, he says, lot of saints are sitting in front of the temple, okay? Whenever a animal is killed as an offering to the god, he will play a horn. He will blow a horn. So to indicate to the god that a offering has been given to him, he says. And afterwards he says, I'll come back to him. I'll come back later in the book and I'll explain in detail about this sage, he says. But he never comes back. And all the historians are so unhappy with that. Why did you forget Domingo Pace? Why did you forget? They all have written, the historians' comments you can see. He cheated us. If Domingo Pace forgot to tell about it. I said, I'm going to tell about what he is. You know, so if for Domingo basement I've forgotten, but I'm here, the storyteller. I can tell about it, so I can imagine and I can tell. So that became a character for me. So I keep on looking for such characters all over the thing. But what surprised me is like the Jewish community of Lisbon. That became an interesting subject for me. They have undergone so much of torture because Vasco da Gama invented India. See, we are only study about impact of Portuguese on the Indian social life in our history to some extent. But what about the impact of India on social life of Lisbon, the Portuguese? No, we have never thought. We have not traveled there, but our spices were going there, right? That had a great social impact. So I wanted to touch those topics. So Jews came into picture actually. So I have never met a Jew till now. So recently only I met someone who is a Jew. So, and I explained him. So he was so fascinated. So you wrote about Jews, that I'm interested to read his side. So that's how the things are.
Thank you for bringing up the topic of sati and, quite a sensitive topic, I must say. In fact, I was getting to it. It's quite touchy. Your focal point in this book has been to expose all these systems and, the cruelty that had been bestowed upon women or lower castes or, all of this. You should all read the book to actually understand what I'm trying to say. But with this expose in your narration, did you feel or did you observe any change after that? And how was it taken? We all know that you got quite a bit of feedback, negative, positive, all kinds of things, on all kinds of topics that you have touched in the book. This particular system, and you're attacking the so-called hardbound Indian caste system and belief system, and how did you observe any change after the book came out?
No, I think it's very well received, I should say. I'm so lucky. The right wing accepted the book. All the right wing people, so I have a lot of readers from the right wing also, so they were very happy with the book. And the left wing, the communists actually, so the communists, they are very good readers, right? They were very happy with the book, the way I have dealt with the subject. So I have received appreciation from all over. Only couple of them had some problems with the caste and other things. No, I that's okay. See, it's like, Lifebuoy soap advertisement you have seen, right? So after he shows like Lifebuoy cleans it kills all the germs, but still he shows one germ which is still there. That is required, Drushti Bhattu. So it's like you need to have that one. If someone criticizes, receive it in a proper way. You welcome that. Provided it makes sense, you accept it. If it doesn't, you reject it. But once a book is written, I don't have to justify anything. My book itself will justify whatever it is required. I'm not going to speak or I'm not going to defend the viewer's feedback. I'll never do that. Yeah.
So Vasudhendra, when we talk about history or historical or, that era, when we write stories about it, it's usually about the battles, the glory, and, the kind of kings and queens that we had. But here you made sure you touched the lives of the common people and, their lifestyle, and be it trading or be it love or be it family or be it one particular guy who belonged to a group where he would kill himself, or one from the group would kill himself every time the king had an offspring in his family. And these are, quite complex, and this is all very well spun around. What made you stick to the common lifestyle here?
See, for me, history means the common man life. History is not about kings and queens. If you are talking about only kings and queens, it's a political history. It is not a real history. I was if I'm going to write about Krishna Devaraya's novel based on Krishna Devaraya, or Adil Shah, or King Manuel, or Vasco da Gama, something like that, it's like writing novel about a celebrity of current time, about the prime minister, about the chief minister, about a film star. I'm not interested in that. I'm a fiction writer. I always focus on common man struggles. Okay, so that clarity was there for me. So I wanted to see, we all study in the history books what all the historical events happened, right? Vasco da Gama came, we have. But what is that impact it's going to have on the common man? If Vasco da Gama is coming, means it has so much of impact on various, both India as well as the Lisbon. There is an impact. Study that impact. What is that? It changed them. And see, we when with Krishnadevaraya it comes, we all celebrate that he won every war. Especially the South Indians, we are all very proud that he won so many wars. He goes to Varissa, from Hospet to he goes to all the way to Udayagiri, that Kalinga. Kalinga is Varissa. Unbelievable. With almost like 10 lakh soldiers. How did he go? God only knows. Like how did he manage to go all the way down? And he wins the war as well. And we are all very proud of it. But if a king is involved in wars every day, okay, entire almost 10 years he has only done wars, what will be the life of a common man? You assume that today India will have fight with Pakistan, tomorrow with China, another day with Sri Lanka, another day with Bangladesh, all neighbors, you start fighting with them. What will be our life? It will be miserable. So I said, like, I need to look into it, what has happened there. The common man life, because of the wars, what all the problems he faced. How many families lost their bread earner? So that was my focus actually. So that's how I have this thing. See, what is the thing is, there were a lot of good things. Okay, so it's not only just the bad customs, there were so many good things. See, it was so tolerant society. Very clearly, Abdul Razak writes, any person of any faith, means he may belong to any religion, can come and live in Vijayanagara without any problem. The king supports him. You can be Muslim, you can be Christian, you can be any other religion. That time Parsi was also there to some extent. So you can come and stay in India, and king supports you, and he will not interfere with any of your religious practices. So beautiful. They were much tolerant than us, I feel actually. So in one way. So in fact, it goes to such an extent, maybe I should tell this, when these South Indian kings always had a feeling that since they don't eat beef, so their warriors are weaker compared to Bahmani. Bahmani is the other side. Right? After Krishna, if you pass, it's a Bahmani Sultan. They are all Muslim fighters actually. So their warriors are weaker because they don't eat beef, is what the belief most of them had. All the Vijayanagara kings had. So that's why they were recruiting other Muslim soldiers, means from the Persia, from Arab and other parts of the world. So wherever the Muslim community is there, they used to pay them a very huge salary, and they used to recruit them in their as their soldier. Okay, so now doing that, when they come, they want to follow their practices. Okay, so they say our custom is, as soon as you go to the king's court, you're supposed to bow down to the king. So they say, no, you are a Hindu, so we'll not bow down to you. That's what they say to the Praudadevaraya. Okay, we can't. So that is not our practice. We can only bow down to a king who is from the Hindu religion, means Musalman. The other one we will not do. The salute type we won't do. So what he does is, Praudadevaraya does is, he keeps a Quran next to him. And he says, you don't do salute to me, you salute to your Quran. That's okay. So that's a greatness of Praudadevaraya. during the Vijayanagara period. And everyone, almost every king, not only the Vijayanagara, before that, Hoysala kings also had a huge battalion of Muslim soldiers. So it's a very tolerant society as far as the religion tolerance. The tolerance was not there in Europe. It might be very interesting. It was reversed there. Absolutely, they were not tolerant of Muslims. They were not tolerant of Jews. And Muslims were not tolerant of the other religions in their Middle East belt. Those details you will get. But India, at the whole of South India, especially the Vijayanagara period, they were highly tolerant of all the religions. So I have narrated that as well. Okay, so because I have touched every religion without any prejudice, I have touched all the religion aspects. That's why people have liked it. If I had gone with any prejudice, then there would have been a problem.
Absolutely. I again tell you all, please read the book to completely understand what we are sitting and discussing here. Now here, Vasudhendra, we are talking about your narration, your storytelling, and your book. But you must agree with me when I say that, Kannada literature is flourishing, and kind of content that Kannada literature has, it's huge, it's fantastic. What do you think of this? Where are we heading? What are the kind of authors who are there, and who you must have interacted with a lot of people, and there are other storytellers and writers. So what do you think of this whole industry here?
See, what happens is one language becomes very popular at one particular period of time. Sometime it was Sanskrit. Sometime in India it was Telugu. Surprisingly, Telugu was very popular once upon a time. Sometime maybe in future we don't know if the Mandarin comes into picture. So one of the language becomes the more popular and more communicating language for all the common man. So now it is English. That's all. It might change. But now it's English. But what we have to really do is take our books to English readers. We are not doing that very well. Because there are some reasons for that. If you look at Kerala and West Bengal, they have taken their novels quite a lot, extensively, to English, and they are successful as well. And Kannada is not behind at all. It's extremely good literature. As far as the literature is concerned, fiction is concerned, I think it's one of world classics have been written in Kannada. But the problem is we don't have a good translator. Or even if there is a very good translator, we are not in a position to pay them sufficient enough to translate a work. So most of them are doing with passion, right? So now, but whereas in Kerala, there is a lot of Christian community. Kerala. So they have a good hold on English, and they were able to translate it very easily. If you come to West Bengal, because Britishers were there at the West Bengal, they also have got a strong hold on English, and they have done their justice. But that's not the case with Karnataka. Right? So that's why it is going very slow. But we have to plan, means including the government, we have to plan in such a way that our classics are translated in a nice way and published with a very good publisher. If you publish locally, no one reads because you don't have a distributing system. So you have to go to international level publishers and you have to publish your books. Then only they get recognized. Otherwise, they will not get recognized. And also, someone who translates to your book to English, there's no problem if he doesn't know Kannada much, but he should know English very well. The destination language, what we call, you should know it very well so that you can write it like a contemporary language, not a British era language, So like contemporary English you need to use. So then it will reach. I think it's starting. The Gachar Gochar was the beginning. It was fantastically received across the world. So afterwards, Jayant Kakini book got received. My Mohan Swami got received well. So we hope things will come in much bigger way down the line. And regional languages are much rich in details and nativity and the culture. They are much superior because in most of the English fiction, if you read, they are from the urban upper class convent educated kids. Of course, they also have their own experiences, but they don't cover a cultural angle in rich details. They haven't experienced it. So only the regional vernacular, I should not call regional, so vernacular authors only can fulfill that need. So there is a need for that translation as well. Yeah, and also I feel like it's an injustice. Like if a English author writes one book and it becomes a hit, he becomes world famous. Like everywhere people will start talking about him or her. And people here are writing from 30 years, 40 years, beautiful literature they are given. Nobody knows their name. If you go and speak to West Bengal or the Punjab and all, say, have you read anything about Kuempu? They will ask, who is Kuempu? They have not heard. It's so unfortunate. A person who is who can be easily, who could have got easily a Nobel prize for his literature, nobody even knows within India only. It's so unfortunate, right? That's because we have lacked the translation. So, believe it or not, all these vernacular languages have become islands. The only way to connect all these islands is through British Bridge or English Bridge. So, you have to get it translated to English even to reach your own neighbor, a Bengali. Okay, and not only that, the translation has got another advantage. Many of our younger generations are not able to read Kannada. They know English. So at least they have to read our stories, right? So it's very important for them. If you can read Harry Potter, but after some time you feel like, no, I want to read my own forefather's story. So then what are you going to do? So they have to be translated at least for our own sake, to retaining. Yeah, so very important. Translation is extremely important and we need to give highest importance for it.
Very well said, Vasudhendra. I completely agree with you there. And I don't know how you're magically doing this. Every time I ask you a question on one particular subject or topic, you are giving me the prompt for my next question. I was going to start talking about translations next, In this whole translation process, it's domestically done, internationally done, foreign languages to our languages to foreign languages. So don't you think in this whole process, there is some amount of essence lost, story cut, and, how do you receive it? Or how do you make peace with yourself when you see that in whatever language you have written, you mean it in a certain way, but when it gets translated, the meaning is lost. So what does an author or a writer do at this point?
First of all, I won't believe in comparing these two books. That should be treated as a separate book. Because the number of people who read both English and Kannada will be hardly 20 to 30, not more than that. So why are you worried about them? Don't worry. Okay? An English reader who do not know anything about Kannada, if he reads this book in English and enjoys the story, I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. Okay? I give that liberty to the translator. You do. So whatever you feel comfortable, so that it reads like an English work, of course, with the rich Kannada culture details and all those things. It will be lost. What can be done? We don't have a choice. We can't teach everyone Kannada and ask him to read in Kannada. So it's not possible at all. But at least to some extent, if you can taste what it is, okay, that's more than enough. So I say this, actually, this metaphor always I give, like it's a, like in the Bellary side, there is a culture. Hampi is there nearby for us. Whenever you are going to Kashi, Varanasi. So if you are going to Varanasi, what they do is, they take a tumbler full of Tungabhadra water. Tungabhadra water is supposed to be the sweetest. Tungapana, Ganga Snana, we say in our part. So then they will take the tumbler full of water and go to Kashi and they pour that water in Ganga. Okay, they pour that water in Ganga, and while returning, they bring a tumbler full of Ganga water and they pour it back in Tungabhadra. So this completes the total Kashi Yatra for them. It's very important. They say in a way, like the Kashi Vishwanatha should taste the sweetness of our Tunga water. And Pampapati, who is in Hampi, Virupaksha, should get some punya with Ganga water as well. So for me, the translation is this. Translation means we take some water from our river and pour it into the other rivers. Maybe I'm taking Tungabhadra water and pouring it in Thames. Maybe I'm taking Tungabhadra water and I'm pouring it in Nile. And from Nile, I can bring one tumbler full of water and pour it in my Netravati, my Kaveri. So this is what is the translation. So we cannot get the entire river. There is no way that I can bring the entire river, right? So only thing is I can carry the tumbler full of water. And we always said translation is punya karya. Because the best classics you are bringing and making the other people accessible. It is a punya karya. Piyush act. So we have to respect it. It demands a lot of respect. Translation demands a lot of respect.
Absolutely. Vasudhendra, when it comes to, this question is on behalf of all the aspiring writers and budding authors. So how does this whole writing a novel happen? I mean, is this your imagination, or you do research and select your topic like how you did, and is it your interest alone? How does writing a novel happen?
This is my second novel. Actually, I'm more of a short story writer. Always I have written 6 anthologies of short stories are there, and 5 anthologies of personal essays are there. So I'm more well known for that. I wrote one novel in the beginning, earlier, around 10 years back. That was more based on my family, an incident which has happened with my father and mother. I took that as an important incident, and I wrote it. It was very easy flow for me. So that was also a period based in 60s I wrote. So, but it was very easy because I knew the culture and all well. But here it is not easy. So what I was doing is, the studying is very important. If you don't study well of the subject, especially history subjects, you will not be in a position to write anything. Even writing one sentence also, you start getting so many doubts. So for example, she saw herself in the mirror and found her beautiful. The first doubt you get is whether mirror was there at that time or not. Whether there was a culture to look into the mirror, or was there no culture of looking into the mirror. See, these are the doubts you keep getting. So if even writing one sentence is very difficult on the history, if you are not studied well. Okay, you get a lot of, otherwise you start bringing all the contemporary elements there. So like, that was also a style, I don't deny that was in many of our Indian Kannada Mahabharatas, actually, so which were written in 14th century, 15th century, Kumaravasa, right? Kumaravasa's Mahabharata, everyone chews pan. Like pan chewing is very, very, in detail it is there. Krishna chews the pan, so Draupadi chews the pan, everyone. And even Krishna gives Karna one pan and asks him to eat, like that. Those details are very high. But thing is, this pan was not there during the Mahabharata period. Absolutely it was not there. It only came in 1st or 2nd century to India. It was not before that. But it's immaterial for them. So I am writing a novel, this thing, so it has these contemporary details has to be there. It can be justified is what they thought. But for me, it's not. Now the system is, you have to go and live into that word is what they say. And while reading the history, I made one point very clear. I'm not going to note down anything from the book. This is mandatory for me, because if you start noting down the points, you become a historian. I wanted to stay away from that practice of noting down the important points from the history, whatever you read. It has to be there in my mind. Whatever I read, something is there in my mind, means that has attracted me in the history. So I am happy to read 3 times a book. I don't mind reading it 3 times, but I'm not going to write any points in my notebook about those events. And finally, imagination. See, this is another advantage of writing about the common man. If you are writing about kings and queens, people will question you. If you are writing about the common man, nobody comes and questions you. No, it didn't happen like this. It didn't happen. Nobody tells that. I'm so happy with that as well. But if you are planning to write a historical book, mandatory that you study a lot. And believe me, you need not have a MA background, MA in history background or anything of that sort to write a historical novel. You could be a software engineer like me. You read for 1 year. It's just like learning some Python. So you will learn history in the same way. So another computer language kind of a thing. So you can learn history and start writing it. History is more interesting than your computer languages. That much I can tell.
Yes, before we open the floor for questions, I must tell you all that Vasudhendra, who's been so candid, talking to us so beautifully today, sharing his journey, is not just an award-winning publisher and author. He's a hiker, trekker, mountaineer, counselor, a huge supporter of LGBTQ rights. His achievements are one too many. So come a decade, where do you see yourself? How many more books are we getting to read?
That's a difficult question. We don't know what is going to happen in one next day itself. The corona has taught us what is going to happen next week. How can I predict what is going to, what I will be after 10 years? Very difficult to predict. But what I can see is my ability to write is getting reduced. Means I used to write fluently 10 years back. Okay, but since I'm writing from past 25 years, the ability to write has come down. That I can observe. But maybe if I can write another 2 or 3 such novels, that is enough for my career. Okay, so I don't think I should write more than that. So another 3 to 4 novels is more than enough for a career, actually. So as a writer, you don't have to write 20, 30 and all to prove. Because even if you write 20, 30, only 2 to 3 will remain. So as a classics, not everything, okay? So I will be happy if I can write another 2 to 3 novels. One thing I stopped writing short fiction because I enjoyed writing a long fiction. So like this, the novel. So I would like to continue to write novels and not the short fiction, okay? So I have stopped that one. So I'll write, yeah, that's my goal, right? I left my job also to get involved myself full time in the writing and publishing activity. So I'm a publisher as well. So publishing activities will be very high for me. So I spend quite a lot of time in the publishing activity. So that also from past 20 years I'm a publisher. So a lot of activities there. I'm now an expert. One man army. I'm the only employee of my publishing house. No one else is there. So I have published around 100 books till date. So youngsters, especially not the celebrities, youngsters I publish. So that's also work will be there for me to do. So yeah, I'm enjoying whatever comes is fine. Even if I don't write any book, that's fine. I'm happy with whatever I have done till now.
That's fabulous, Vasudhendra. I wish we all had the calmness and the contentment that you have. Thank you for telling us all of that. Now the floor is open for questions. If anyone wants to ask anything. You've been listening to us, hearing. Yeah, Vikas.
Hello. Is it working, right? Yeah, cool. Yeah, sure. Hi, sir. Thank you so much for coming over and sharing the story behind the writing. It was inspirational. So my question is, as an author, would you be willing to let a filmmaker adapt your book into a movie?
I'm very scared of it. Like, I don't want my books or stories to be made into film. I'm not interested in it. But maybe down the line, if some brilliant director comes forward and if I trust him, if I feel that he is capable of doing it, maybe I'll go for it. But now, from past 5 years, I'm saying no. I get this request every day, like we want to make your story into novel, movie or short films or into other thing. No, I said no. Play is fine. If they are making a play, I'm very happy. So I give a lot of respect to theatre. So if they are making a play, I'm very, very happy. So because plays can change. Today one director makes one play, same story the another director makes into a different play. So all things will be different. I don't have any problem. But this film, once it's done, it's over. It's like a typecast, like I'm not interested in it at the moment. No, I won't give rights to anyone, but down the line I might change my mind if I find a trustworthy, talented, qualified director approaches. As of now, no films. I'm very scared of giving my works to any film director. I feel more proud as an author. I don't want film industry give me more respect because they are made into film and they are making me big. No, I don't believe in it. As an author, I'm as good as equivalent as a director of a film, right? So I'm very proud of being an author than the film field.
All right, thank you.
You spoke about Kannada book, I take 20 days, but if I read an English book, it takes 2 days. So that's the speed. So do you think audiobooks is a good way to go for your vernacular?
Yeah, very much actually. So I'm promoting audiobooks as well. So all my books are available in audiobooks, especially these Kannada kids who have born up as a Kannadiga, but they're not able to read Kannada fluently. So at least let them listen. It's better than reading it in English. Okay, so they can relate themselves with the story. So I am for the audiobooks actually. So it's much better. Yeah, but the audiobook process is so complex that you have to record it and you have to have a very good voice and days together recording happens and it involves a lot of expenses and all. But I think that's the way forward. Down the line, so electronically making an audiobook is the best solution. Yeah, pastel. And also I'm very much involved with the visually challenged community. So I always talk to them. They come to my home and all. So I even adopted 1 or 2 for their education and other things. So visually challenged community is always in touch with me. So I feel they need audiobooks. More than me, they need audiobooks. So I'll be very happy if audiobook comes and they become much easier to access. Now it's a bit expensive. Audiobooks are pretty expensive compared to these books. Okay, the money also plays a role. Like we need to have a better solutions.
So good evening, sir. A huge respect to you, sir. ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ತುಂಬ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅಭಿಮಾನಿ. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮದೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಬಳಗನೇ ಇದೆ, ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲೇ ನಂದೊಂದು ಸರ್ ಬುಕ್ ಓದಾಗಿದೆ. ನಂದೊಂದು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಸರ್. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ರಿಪೀಟ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇಡಿಯಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ನೀವಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿರೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಷ್ಟ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಗಲ್, ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ನೀವು ಬರಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಈ ಟೈಮಿಗೆ ನೀವೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರ? ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ಓದ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನನಗನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ಲೈನನ್ನು ಸರ್ ಬರಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಈ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಹೇಗೆ ರಾಜರು ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಆ ಒಂದು ಆಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂಥ ದಾಸಿಗಳನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲಸದವ್ರನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಈಗಿನ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೈಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾನ ಇತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ?
ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಸಿ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಓಕೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಹಿ ಆಸ್ಕ್ಡ್ ಈಸ್ how much of contemporary issues were driving you when you are writing the Kannada this novel actually. See, I think I should quote something what S.L. Bhairappa said. There cannot be any historical novel. Everything is contemporary, he says. You are taking a subject of history and writing a contemporary only, he says. You cannot classify any book as a historical or contemporary. It doesn't make any sense, he says. Everything is contemporary because a contemporary writer is writing, so it is a contemporary work. Even if you write Mahabharata, it is contemporary. It's nothing to do with the history or mythology, is what he says. I believe in it because I've been born and brought up in the contemporary world. My ideas will revolve around that, actually. So when I talked about a rebelness for a woman to run away from the sati, right? That is contemporary. During those days, maybe nobody has thought like that. Including women, they would not have thought. They thought it's an ongoing process. Because I have come with a different mindset, different ideologies, different theories now, I can think in a feminist angle that what is happening to her is injustice. It's an atrocity. So that needs to be rebelled. Right? That's why I wrote that incident. Otherwise, if you are living at that period, they would not have done the objection. If a Kumaravasa has written, he also writes Sati in about when Pandu dies, Madri jumps into the fire, right? But he never gets an idea that she has to run away. Because his mind is of that period only, 14th century, 15th century period only. So he cannot have that kind of a mind. I am the contemporary. See, if one incident which is very important one is changing the name of a city. Okay, so there is one name for the city, and Krishnadevaraya has changed so many cities' names because he is a Vaishnavite. During those times, Karnataka city names were all Shaiva. Because Sangama Vamsha, the Vijayanagara has got Sangama, Tuluva, Salva, Tuluva, Aravidu, right? So Sangama Vamsha is a Shaiva Vamsha. So they were believers of Shaivism. So most of the things were Shiva-based names for us everywhere in Karnataka. When these people came, especially Salva came, so and later Tuluva, so they got attracted more to the Vaishnava religion. Okay, so then they started changing from the Shaiva names to Vaishnava names. For the best example, you will get with Tenali Ramakrishna. Tenali Ramakrishna, original name is Tenali Ramalinga. Okay, Tenali Ramalinga. He thought if he goes as a Shaivite, he will not get the proper respect from the king who is supporting more Vaishnavism. So that's why he changed his name from Tenali Ramalinga to Tenali Ramakrishna. So that gives an idea. So I bought that city name changing. So that's a contemporary. We are changing so many city names left and right. So how much it might pain to the people who got used to the older names for whatever the reason it might be. Right? So that is again a contemporary. So many contemporary issues will be there actually.
ನಿಮಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಉತ್ತರ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ? Yeah.
A very good evening, sir. Hello. A very good evening, sir. So, as you told that we would be able to read the book in the English as well. So, do you think the essence of the book or the picture you want to portray, so that justice would be done by English, or there would be a language barrier in this?
It won't be. See, for that the best metaphor is during our childhood, the instant coffee was introduced. The first instant coffee was brew. That's the one which we remember, brew instant coffee. The advertisement for the brew coffee was, its taste as same as filter coffee. Means almost to the taste of the filter coffee was the word they used. They never said same. Because they knew that filter coffee is something very different. South Indians know it very well. So they cannot reach the taste, right? So that's how even translation will be. You will give a coffee taste, you will get, but it is not going to be the same as a filter coffee. But at least for North Indians who are not even having the passion of drinking a coffee itself, so for them even filter coffee is enough. Let them taste at least what coffee is like that. But all this filter coffee metaphor is for the prose. Okay, if you are translating a prose, of course some essence will be lost, but something will be there, at least a filter, if not filter coffee, instant coffee will be there. If you translate a poetry, the coffee will become kashaya. You know, it's so tough. I don't believe in translating a poetry itself. It never, I don't think it's possible also, because it's so much rich in the wordplay, it's so much rich in the language. So translating a poetry, it's too tough. It's too tough to do. But prose, let us go with the translations, okay? It's very, very important, the prose translation. Though it gives you 90%, I'm happy with it. Let them read at least 90%, yeah?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Yeah. So, sir, like you're an author, so obviously you must have encountered the infamous writer's block. If so, how have you like overcome that writer's block? Because even if I write one page of a story, I half page and I'm done. Like I cannot proceed more than that. So if at all, like you wrote 450 pages, so at any point, if you have encountered the writer's block, how have you like overcome that?
We'll talk a lot about this writer's block. Actually, I conduct a lot of story writing workshops. Maybe if you are interested, you should attend one of them. I cover this topic as well, okay? So how to handle these writer blocks and all. For me, no. If I start a story, I never get stuck. I'll finish it off. I know it very well. But there is a period where I don't write anything. That is my writer block. Okay, so I don't write, and I'm aware of it. See, first and foremost thing you have to be aware of is, if you are stuck, don't get panic. If you get panic that I'm not able to complete, then further the problem becomes bigger and you will never be able to complete. Just be peaceful, no problem. Go out, travel, think totally a different thing. Absolutely, completely different thing you start reading or observing, and see if that can be part of your story. It gels well. Many times it takes a different shape and it comes out as a delicacy which is not your original expectation. Possible that it may not be what you have originally planned, but still it will come out as something totally different. It might be much more beautiful than your original planned, what it might be. So that might quite happen in this. But for me, no. I'm very, like an engineer I am. So I'm so well planned. If I start, I know how I'm going to end it also. Like all this 460 pages was there in my mind when I started writing the novel. I knew what character comes where, what dialogues will be there, what scenes will be there. Everything I was aware of it. I'm more of an engineer. So it happens here, and then I'll just go on documenting. And also, I'm not a person who plays so much with language. My language is so simple. Even a 4th standard, I have fans from 4th standard kids as well. So they tell me they're 4th standard, but they read the Tejo Tungabhadra. So I was so happy. Yeah, means in Kannada they have read it and they told me they read the story. So that's a proud moment for me, because the 4th standard, his reading ability will be so less, but he could read without any difficulty. And means my Kannada is good for a 4th standard student also. But there are people at 80 who have never read any book in their life. They have read this book. So that also gives me a happy moment. Like people who have never read for 80 years, but immediately they read my book and they were happy and they shared the joy with me. So both have happened. But writer blocks is temporary. It won't be a permanent thing. You need different exposures at that time. Go for travel, meet new people, listen to them, and read something totally different aspects of writing. Then again it will flourish. Yeah.
ಹಲೋ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವರು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬುಕ್ಕನ್ನು ಒಂದು 5-6 ಸಲ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವ್ರದ್ದೇ ಆದ ಭಾವದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಡಿಟೋ ನೀವು ಅದು ವಾಕ್ಯನ ಅದದೇ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ?
There are two kinds of translation. One is just the summary, telling of the summary. Another one is line by line translation. But internationally, I believe in line by line translations only. So you are not supposed to crisp it out with your own, because that becomes your book. It's not my book, right? So what you can read a paragraph 3 times, and maybe you can change some of the sentences to suit the language. Nothing wrong. But don't say that this 460 pages you can remember everything for reading in 5 times and then putting it into, no, that won't work. Okay, it will kill the book actually. So you have to go into the details of everything, line by line, and then you translate to English, but you can combine 2 lines into 1. So English might have a power, 2 lines to make it into 1 line. Some words may not be necessary there, but here it is very necessary because Kannada language. So all those things will be there. The challenges are very high for the translation, but at least it should be the same read. We cannot have the kind of bhavanuvada. I'm not from that school. I don't believe in it, because see, translations, it's not new. I'm a translator as well. I have translated 2 books, one from Telugu to Kannada, one from English to Kannada. So 2 books I have translated, and from my publication, I have published at least 25 books, translation books. And every translation book, I edit sentence by sentence. I'm a very good editor myself. So I edit every sentences, okay, and I'll ask them to change. I'll tell them what is the style I'm looking for, how should be the grammar and all. I will dictate them, and they will make those corrections and give it to me. So translation is a different ball game, but you have to read his book and not your book, the translator's book. That is very important.
Thank you.
She's also an author.
Actually, ಮುದ್ದುಮಗಳೇ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಬ ಅಂತ ಅದನ್ನ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಮಿಲೋಡ್ ಡಾಟರ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಓದಿದ್ರೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಸೆ ಟೈಪ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಮೋಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಸಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಮುಂದೆ ಯಾವಾಗಾದ್ರೂ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ
Definitely you have to go for a translator who is very good at English, and maybe better if he is a fiction, if he or she is a fiction writer in English. That kind of a translation is required.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದೇನಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಅದು ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನೀರಿಳಿಯದ ಗಂಟಲೊಳಗೆ ಕಡುಬು ತುರುಕಿದಂತಾಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೋ
ವೆರಿ ಟಫ್,
ತುಂಬಾ ಟಫ್. ಅದು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಆ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಟಫ್.
ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಟಫ್ ಟು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್.
ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು ವೆಡ್ನೆಸ್ಡೇ ನಮ್ದು IAS ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನ್ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆಸೆ ನನಗೆ, ಬಟ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಟೈಮ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ, ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.
It was a pleasure getting to know you, Vasudhendra, a fabulous writer, thinker, doer. Thank you for talking to us so openly from your mind and heart. I urge you all to grab your copies of Tejo Tungabhadra in Kannada or English. We have some copies right here if you're interested. And those who are watching us, please go to your nearest bookstore. It's available everywhere, and it's also available on all the platforms from where you can buy and get it delivered. Thank you all for coming here for this chat show. Again, it is Friday evening, and you're all spending time to know an author, know about a book. That's indeed fascinating. And keep reading, keep doing good, be kind to each other. Follow Book Brahma's social media platforms to know who's our next guest on this show. Meet the author. This is season 1, episode 1. And thank you again. Huge round of applause for Mr. Vasudhendra. I am Surabhi Shastry from Forbidden Communication. Good evening and a very good weekend.
I would like to thank Book Brahma and all this entire team who has invited me and organized this event, because these days authors and books are not so well respected, because something which doesn't return money, people are losing respect on such things, that's what is the situation. But I'm so happy you invited me and share my ideas here. Thank you very much, and thanks for the nice questions and the cooperation.
Thank you. There's chai, coffee and snacks for everybody, so please feel free.